Hey friends! In today's video, we're going to be talking about the makeup trends and techniques that might be adding years to your look and making you look older, and the slight tweaks and adjustments that you can do to give yourself a youthful look and look as young as you feel. I'm super excited about today's video. I'm going to be demonstrating both the don'ts, but also the do's, and I think you will find the difference between these two truly shocking. Now keep in mind, when I apply the don'ts, I'm doing all of them at one time, so the look might seem a little bit dramatic, but keep in mind, even if you're doing a couple of these techniques or doing one or two or three, they might be working against you. So even if you're not doing all of these at once, I think you're going to learn a lot from this video and how you can adjust complexion, eyes, lips, blush, contour placement, all the things, and just slightly improve your look. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so first let's talk about skin prep. Now, the big don't here would be obviously not skin prepping at all. I don't think most of us are doing that. I think most of us are probably applying some level of skincare, whether it's a moisturizer, a hydrating serum, SPF, all the things, but it goes even deeper than that. You want to make sure that you're not only using moisturizing products, but that you're applying them shortly before your makeup application, because it really doesn't do you much good for your makeup if you're applying your skincare products in the morning and a long period of time goes by before you apply your makeup. You really want your skin to feel freshly plumped, supple. You want it to still feel supple and wet to the touch, so it's freshly moisturized. So if you did in fact moisturize your skin in the morning and 3 hours go by before you're applying your makeup, make sure that you're applying some type of hydrating primer, some hyaluronic serum, some product on your skin to just revive that freshness and that suppleness to your skin before applying your makeup. That will make the world of difference. When you apply foundation on dry skin, especially mature dry skin, it will just accentuate every bit of texture on the skin, whether that's pores or fine lines or deep wrinkles. You want the skin to be plumped, and the way that you plump the skin is by hydrating it. Now, I'm going to be linking all the products that I'm using in today's video down on YouTube Shopping, and also they'll be in the description box so you guys can shop them. And I'm going to link all the products that I use in the do's, okay? So I won't be linking the products that I'm using on the don't section. Everything you see will be all the products that I'm using to create this look and products that I personally love and work really well for me to provide a youthful look. So if you have any questions about what those products are, just take a peek down below and you can see them and shop them all. Okay, so let's talk about the don'ts when it comes to foundation. Now, some of these are going to be very obvious to you. You're going to think, Lisa, I've heard that before, but there might be one or two that you haven't heard before, so keep an open mind. So the first, and I think most obvious to all of us, is to apply too much foundation. When you go in and apply too much foundation, it will definitely look heavy. It will definitely accentuate texture. It will actually make texture that you may not even have noticed more noticeable. So number one is only apply what you need. Now, number two is also choose formulas that really speak and cater to your specific needs. So if you don't need a full coverage foundation, don't use a full coverage foundation. One little trick and hack that I love that allows me to use less foundation is to use a tinted SPF. So an SPF that has some color and it has some coverage. If you've been watching my content for any length of time, you know that this is my holy grail. This is the ALASTIN HydraTint. It has an SPF of 36. It's a skin tone color and it actually gives good coverage. Many days I wear this by itself with a little concealer and I completely skip foundation, but because I do wear this, I am able to use about half the foundation that I would normally need to use to get the coverage that I want. And it doesn't matter which foundation I'm using, this looks good under every single one. That trick of having a little bit of coverage before you go in with your foundation, so it allows you to use less. Foundation by nature is a more pigmented, heavier product, so it's important when you're using products like that, like foundation, concealer, that you're really getting by with just what you need and not more. Another foundation don't is choosing the wrong color, whether that color is too light for you, too dark for you, too yellow, too orange, whatever it may be. You want to obviously find a foundation shade that seamlessly blends into your skin and matches your skin. Now, sometimes I can get away with using a lighter foundation if maybe I came back from vacation, I've got a bit of a tan, and I'll compensate and warm up the face with bronzer. But when it's really, really off, in this example, I'm using a foundation that's way too light for me, it's going to age you. It's going to look more mask-like, and it's just going to be more startling and not look natural. And the key is having makeup that looks natural and enhances your natural beauty. You don't want makeup that looks like a mask, that looks like a cake, that looks too heavy. And when you go in with foundation that's just not the right shade or too far off from your shade, that's when you run into trouble. So finding a foundation shade that's a good match. And I highly recommend going into the store for this and really testing. Doing a few swatches and walking outside of the store. A lot of stores, particularly makeup stores, for some reason, the lighting can be very challenging to find a good match. Sometimes it takes swatching a few and walking outside in the natural light and testing it against your skin. So always make sure you're using the right shade. And the last tip for foundation is making sure you choose the right formulation. So there is so much to know about foundations, and that can be an entirely different video. If you guys want a video that just dives deep into foundations, leave a comment and let me know. Just type the word foundation video, please, or the 3 words foundation video, please, and I will definitely create that video for you, but you got to let me know. So not only do we need to consider coverage, do we want a light foundation, medium, or full? I personally love buildable foundations. So a buildable foundation is a foundation that you can lightly layer to get a variety of coverages. You can get something nice and light and natural and sheer, or you can build it up to get medium to full-ish coverage. That's my personal favorite foundation. Now, when it comes to a youthful look, I love foundations that either have a natural matte finish. So what does that mean? It means that there's not going to be any shine or dewiness to the skin, but the skin's going to look natural, okay? It's not going to look powdered, it's not going to look flat, it's not going to look heavy. Okay, I also love foundations that might have a radiant matte finish. So that means you're going to have some radiance and a bit of glow to the skin, but you're also going to have that longevity benefit to your foundation. I live in Texas, it's 1,000,000 degrees here, so I need that longevity. It's very important to me. I cannot wear foundations that are very dewy and very glowy and very wet. Although that might make my skin look nice, the moment I step outside, I'm going to look like a greasy mess. So I really prefer natural matte, radiant matte, or just radiant long wearing foundations. Today I'm wearing the House Labs, and I think that is such a beautiful foundation. I think it's fantastic for all skin types. It does give you a radiant glow, but it's long wearing, it's lightweight, it's buildable, and they have so many shades. You can pick the perfect shade for you. So if we are shade twins, by the way, I am the shade 210 light medium neutral in this foundation, and it's just so lovely. I pumped out a pump of this foundation. I ended up using half of that because that was all that I needed. Another tip when you're applying your foundation, I like to really spread it on my face. So I use the 101 to apply it. I'm moving the brush all around, okay? I'm not just focusing in one little place and like making that foundation work in that area. I'm spreading that foundation all over and putting it to work in a larger area. That also allows me to use less foundation but still get great coverage. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about concealer. Now, concealer is a big area that we can go down the wrong path when it comes to adding years to our look. First and foremost, just like foundation, a lot of these are going to actually be very similar, foundation and concealer. You want to make sure you don't use too much. Concealer, of all the products that we apply on our face, is the most pigmented, the heaviest, the fullest of coverage. So really, really concentrated coverage in this product. You need the tiniest bit. Now, I have 2 little tricks for you. So one little trick you can do is you can actually apply it to the back of your hand, take your brush, work the product into your brush, and then apply it under the eye. If you have a heavy hand, and honestly, I will say probably 6 out of 10 times I apply more concealer than I need. It's very easy to do that when you take the product. By the way, this is the best concealer for mature skin in my opinion. It's the Sarah Creel. But it's very easy to over apply, even if you have all good intentions, when you go directly to the face. I do it all the time. I really do. Not intentionally, obviously, but applying it to the back of your hand, working it into the brush, and then applying it to the skin, you will use less product. And just work it in, see if you get the coverage you want, and then stop there. If you are going to apply it directly to the skin, I like to apply just a little bit in the inner corner here, a little bit in the outer corner here. I will connect those two and spread the product under the entire eye. Then I will go out and blend it out by tapping my brush against the skin. There's really no need to take this and apply it all underneath the eye and then try and blend that out. You will have way more product than you need. And we might see that in content that's shared on YouTube or social media, but the truth is that sometimes makeup that's done for content purposes is meant to be entertaining and eye-catching, but it doesn't look and translate well in real life. And I think when you're of a certain age, not even going to throw a number out there, but I'm of that age. If I put too much concealer on, 4 hours later, heck, an hour later, I'll go outside and I will look in the mirror and think, oh my gosh, I didn't even know I had all of those lines. It will make lines appear that weren't even there. So do not over-apply your concealer. Second little tip for concealer is to choose the right formula. Now, concealer can be tricky because there are more fine lines, there's more texture. We are always smiling, we're laughing, we're angry, we're doing all the things with our eyes. We're so expressive that we create these lines, and you don't want product to settle in those lines, right? So you want something hydrating, but you also don't want it to be too creamy. It needs to be able to set and stay in place. So you don't want a concealer that's too hydrating, too creamy. You also don't want a heavy matte concealer. Stay away from those. Those are not your friend, okay? I don't think they're anybody's friend, but you want a concealer that is hydrating, lightweight. And these, by the way, this one checks all those boxes. The Cerecreal checks all those boxes. It's very pricey, but I love it. There are plenty other great options out there. I will link them and tag them down below that are more affordable. But if I had to pick one concealer for mature skin, it would be this one. It is so, so darn good. So choosing the right concealer formula is very, very important. And just make sure that you are fully blending that concealer in. So blend it in with a brush. Take your brush and kind of dry clean it, run it over a paper towel, and then go back under the eye and tap, because chances are you'll have a little creasing, and just go in there and absorb that extra creasing. Even take your finger and kind of blot it underneath the eye before you set with powder to absorb that excess concealer. Okay, so moving along to powdering the face. Now this is where we can also get ourselves into trouble. You're gonna find a very common theme here with pretty much most products when it comes to makeup, and that is do not over apply. Powder is another one. I think this whole baking trend that we saw, pop up it's actually been a trend for years, right? But that does not look flattering for day-to-day makeup. It's great for photo shoots. It's great if you're 20. It's great if you don't mind a heavy powdered look, but if you're trying to look for natural skin and not accentuate texture, it is not going to work for you. So what I like to do, I do pretty much powder all over the face most days. It really depends on the foundation I'm wearing. And if I feel like the skin feels really dewy and wet and needs to be set with powder, I'll powder all over the face. But this is the way that I do it. I take a smaller brush. So I might take something like the 108 or the N14, and I set underneath the eyes. You can use either of these brushes. I set underneath the eyes. I'll set the center of the face. I'll go around the nose, the smile lines with this brush, right? And I'll really pack that powder on. I am conscious not to over powder underneath the eyes, because over powdering will make that area look really dry and accentuate texture. So even though I'm saying I pack a lot on, I don't necessarily pack a lot on, but I just really press the powder into that area to mattify everything. Now, when I'm setting around the face, like around here, I will take the 104 from BK Beauty. If you're new to my channel, by the way, I'm the founder of BK Beauty, so little fun fact there. I will take the 104 because it's large and fluffy, and I can pick up less powder and apply less powder, and I will just press it onto the skin. I don't sweep a lot because I don't want to disrupt the foundation. I'll just lightly press. That'll slightly set the foundation, but give a very light layer of powder, not over powder, because over powdering again will just make the skin look dry and cakey and heavy. And when you have all those boxes to check, what's going to happen is you're going to have more apparent fine lines, wrinkles, and texture. When it comes to powdering underneath the eyes, my favorite at the moment is the Huda Beauty Easy Bake Loose Powder. Today I use the shade Pound Cake. It's a little bit lighter and brighter, but I love this. It's a very soft, silky matte finish. It does mattify the skin, but it's very soft and it's not dry looking. It's very beautiful. It feels very nice. It's very refined, very lightweight. So I love this. If you have very oily skin, or if you wear very dewy makeup and you want to set it, I like the one size. This is a heavier duty powder, and I don't use this under the eyes too much. If I do, I'm very cautious about how much I apply because this is very mattifying. So keep that in mind. But this is another go-to for me. Particularly, I will use this more around the face, on the forehead, but not necessarily so much under the eyes. Next, let's talk about contour and blush placement, and then we'll get into shade selection. So first, when it comes to contouring or bronzing, you could really apply this to both. You don't want to apply it too low, okay? So the purpose of contouring or bronzing is to add some dimension to the face, add some warmth to the face if you're focusing on bronzing. They're very similar. It's really unnecessary to do both of them, in my opinion. So when it comes to contour, you want to find a skin tone color that's a few shades darker than your skin, actually several shades darker than your skin, that leans more cool in undertone, more kind of grayish looking. Bronzer is the same application, but something that's a little warmer, has more of a warmth, a peachiness to it, just something that kind of warms up the skin and gives a sun-kissed look. look. So typically I just bronze, but for either one, you want to make sure placement is in the appropriate area. So think of where you want to create the shape. Now, it's always nice to kind of follow your natural cheekbones, which mine are right here. If you feel like you want more of a lift, like if your cheekbones are lower but you actually want to lift, apply that slightly higher. Wherever you apply that is where you're going to draw attention to the eye in definition and structure. And if you apply it too low, it's kind of making the face look a little bit more sunken. So keep in mind placement. You really don't want to apply it like here because that's just kind of drawing attention and making the face look like it's sagging. So a little bit higher, and I like to kind of create a little bit of an angle to create the illusion of a little bit of a lift. I also don't like to bring the contour and bronzer too far over here. I usually like to stop right about here. When you smile and the apple of your cheek pops, I like to kind of bring it right to the end of that, not any further than that, because again, you're just kind of bringing everything down the further in you go. Color placement too. You want to make sure that you're choosing a color, again, that's a few shades deeper, but nothing that's too dark. So for my skin tone, I am usually safe to go with either the lightest or the second to lightest bronzer in any brand's lineup. So if a brand has 4 bronzers or 6 bronzers, I'm usually going to be 1 or 2. If it's 4, I'm probably going to be 1. If it's 6, I might be 2 because there's more of a range there. I personally love to use something a little warmer than cool tone, so I'm always bronzing. I love this powder bronzer from Christian Dior. It's very nice. It's very like velvety and just applies beautifully, blends out beautifully. It's very soft and buildable. It's hard to apply too much of this. If you want a good dupe for this, the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer is a very close dupe. They even smell similar. I think the only difference really is the packaging because they're very similar. So I got a good dupe suggestion for you. Okay, so let's talk about blush. Honestly, I feel like I can make an entire video on blush. So if you want to see that, let me know in the comments. Say blush video, please. There are so many do's and don'ts. So I'm just going to talk about what I think are the most common. So first and foremost, it is blush placement, similar to the bronzer and the contour. You want to apply the blush above those areas, but you also want to make sure that you don't bring it too far down and too far over. And that is something I struggle with because I like to see the blush and I love blush. It's very easy for me to get carried away with blush. But as we age, we want to make sure that we apply that blush slightly higher and blend upward to give a little bit of a lift. So in the don'ts video, you will see me using a blush that is a little too dark for myself. I'm applying it too much of that blush and I'm applying it just straight down and really far over. So I'm kind of doing all the don'ts in one application, but you want to consider placement. You want to consider color. Another thing is texture. So I personally love a good cream blush. As I get older, I think that it just gives like a youthful look to the skin and the face. It just highlights the face without having to use shimmer. Shimmer can also accentuate texture. It's also can be very dated if you're using a heavy shimmer of blush on the cheeks. So you're pretty safe if you work with a cream product. I love creams. The one I'm using in today's video is kind of my current favorite right now. It's this new blush from Dior. It's the shade Rosewood. It is this really beautiful pinky peach blush. Look at that. So pretty. The color is just gorgeous. It's pretty pigmented, but it's very easy to blend out and work with. So it's very user friendly. Now the blush that I used in the don't is this blush from Say Beauty. Now I love Say Beauty blushes, so this is no shade to the formula, but this shade right here is just a little bit deeper than I like. It's not super flattering for my skin tone. And yeah, it's just, I would use this so I had a little bit darker skin tone. I love this formula, and there's another shade, I think it's called Mia, that I love. But yeah, so that's the difference. Just going with something a little brighter on the cheeks and a cream formula to highlight. Okay, if you are still here, drop a comment and say still here and still learning. Thank you. This is going to be a long video. I should have probably broken this up into different parts of the face, right? Maybe foundation, concealer, maybe eyes could be its own video, but I decided to tackle everything in one video. So we've covered skin prep, we've covered foundation, we've covered concealer, we have covered powder, we've covered blush, bronzer, and contour. Okay, so next we have eyes and we have lips. We are almost to the end. So thank you for being here with me. Let's go ahead and move on to eyes. So with eyes, oh my gosh, there are so many like mistakes we can make. This definitely needs its own video, so I will plan that. You don't even have to drop a comment. I will plan that one. Eyes, oh my gosh, there's so many. So in this video, I just kind of am tackling a couple of the obvious ones. Let's start first with brows. So when it comes to brows, I think there are two main mistakes we can make, and that is either going too dark with our brow color, whether it's our pencil or our gel and too harsh, or it's not doing anything to the brows. Both of those will work against you. It's really important to take the time to shape and frame the brows. Now, I like to use a pencil and a fiber brow gel because my brows are kind of, I wouldn't say non-existent, but I need both a pencil to create the shape, but I need the brow gel to create the volume in the brow. So I use both products. What you will need will be determined on what your brows need, right? Everyone's going to be different. I personally love the Kosas Air Brow. This is a volumizing brow gel, and it really does fluff up the brow. So what I like to do is use a pencil that's maybe a little darker than my hair color, and then I go in with a lighter brow gel. So that's the little trick that I use to get the perfect balance of depth of color. You know, a pencil for more definition, and then a lighter brow gel to kind of soften. Think of the brow gel as almost like the highlights to your brow. You know, if you look at my hair under here, it's going to be darker, but then on top I've got the highlights, right? Very similar to the brows. So going too heavy, too dark, or doing nothing at all. Those are the biggest mistakes that you can make when it comes to brow. Okay, let's talk about eyeshadow. And we were gonna kind of simplify it for this one. I think for me, there's really just a couple of don'ts that are the most commonly made mistakes and most obvious. And that is using a dark shadow all over the eyelid. Okay, now there's definitely a time and place for that, I think, and also everyone's eye shapes are different. So not to say that dark eyeshadow across the lid looks terrible on everybody, but what is going to really enhance and shape the eye and brighten the eye is to play with the highlights and contours of the eye, right? Using a lighter shade on the lid and inner corner and a slightly deeper shade on the outer corner in the crease. Do you see how this gives more definition to the eye, right? That darker color, it's not even that dark, but it's slightly darker. It's enough contrast to make it pop. So that's another thing. It's having the contrast. You want some contrast, you just don't want it to be too stark. You don't want a bright color on your lid and a super dark color in your crease. And on the other side of that, you don't want a dark color all over your lid. I know it's a lot, it can be confusing. So if you do want me to break this down in a separate video, let me know. And generally speaking, I like to pick a shade that is slightly lighter than my skin tone for my lid, and then 2 shades darker for my outer corner and crease. When it comes to liner, okay, so let's talk about liner, you guys. I am not a fan of black eyeliner. Now, I have lighter features, right? I have lighter hair. My skin is kind of light medium. I think on some skin tones with hair color, black can be beautiful, but overall I think black can be pretty harsh. And regardless if you're using black or using brown, placement of eyeliner is so important. So I personally think a chocolate brown can give you just as much definition and impact as a black liner can. But regardless of if you're using black or you're using brown, you really want to focus on the placement of the liner. So when you take a dark eyeliner and you run it around the entire eye, that is just going to close the eye off. It's very harsh. It's very stark. It's very, very dated. So forget even like adding like years to your look. It's really kind of very outdated. Eyeliner is meant to enhance the lash line and make the lashes appear thicker and more full. It can be very distracting when you have a thick, heavy, dark liner all the way around the eye. So I would just throw that out. Even if you want to hold onto your black liner and keep it, place it on the outer half of your lash line, create your line to the outer corner, and then take a smudge brush and smudge it to soften it slightly. You can, if you have a really waxy pencil, you can just smudge the product. If your pencil dries really quickly, take a little bit of a brown shadow and run it on top of that. This is the N12 from the Nikki LaRose BK Beauty collection, and this is a must-have for eyeliner. It is so great. You can use it on pencils, you can use it on gels. It's so fantastic. So I always like to soften my eyeliner by smudging it, and I love to use a bronze eyeliner. My favorite ever, again, if you follow my channel, you know this already. It's Fenty Beauty, the shade Puppy Eyes. This is the most beautiful bronzy metallic. Oh, look at how beautiful that is. Is that just not the prettiest color you've ever seen? It reminds me a lot of the Charlotte Tilbury color Chameleon, which they have discontinued, the shade Amber Haze that I love. This is my favorite. If this is not dark enough for you, you're like, oh, that's pretty, but it's not dark enough for me. I love these liners from Wonder Skin. This one right here. So look at that. A nice, rich chocolate brown. These are very soft, very creamy. It gives you time to maneuver them and play with them. But even if I use this on my upper lashes, I always use something softer on my lower lashes, whether that's the metallic bronze or using shadow. So for today's look, I just used my N12 and I grabbed a eyeshadow that's a little bit darker than my skin tone, and I applied that on my lower lash, and that gives me the definition, but in a very soft way. So to summarize, Try to replace your black with a brown if you can do it. If you can't, that's okay, keep your black, but placement is everything for the eyes. It's all about soft opening the eyes, not closing them down. Okay, let's wrap this video up and let's talk about lip mistakes. So let's talk about the do's really, because I think as we talk about the tips and do's to create full, youthful looking lips, then that'll kind of explain the don'ts. But I like to use liners that are very creamy that I can smudge and soften with my fingertip that create a very soft line around the lips. I like to use shades that are a little bit either warm, a little pinky, kind of similar to my skin tone in terms of depth, but maybe a little bit darker. I don't like to use really dark colors on the lips. Again, I want to say this very clearly that I'm not saying that dark lipstick is a no-no or bold colors are a no-no. Absolutely not. The beauty about makeup is it's so personal and it's an art. And if you love a bold, beautiful lip or a dark lip, then you wear what you love, that you feel great and confident. Who am I to tell you otherwise? Right? But when we talk about creating like a youthful kind of full plump lip, there are certain theories and applications that you can take that just will give you more volume and a more voluminous look to the lips. So I like to slightly overline by lining right at the border of my lip, like letting it kind of expand a little bit over that border, right? When I get to the Cupid's bow, I like to connect the two with a soft kind of connection, not necessarily straight across, but I don't like to create a lot of like sharp definition at the Cupid's bow. I like it to be softer. I like to use a lipstick that is creamy and that's a little bit lighter than my liner, and then always applying a gloss. Adding a gloss to your final look is just going to give volume to the lips. It gives some shine. It just makes the lips look juicy and very healthy and very youthful. When we use all matte products on the lips, it can accentuate texture. So my lips personally are very textured. There's a lot of lines in my lips and I like to soften those. And I do so by using creamy products that are glossy. In the don'ts, you'll see me use a liner that I feel is a little too dark for me. You'll also see me line within my lip line, not around or outside of my lip line, so it's making my lips look a lot smaller. Actually, I'm wearing the same lipstick in both the don'ts and the do's. It's the exact same lipstick, but in the don'ts, it's paired with a dark liner and it's just worn alone, where in the do's, I added a little bit of lip gloss to add more volume and shine. That wraps this video up. I hope you found it helpful. I hope you took away a tip or two. If you did, will you please drop a comment and let me know? Let me know what you learned today, what you're gonna try when you apply your makeup next. And please let me know which follow-up videos you wanna see next, whether it's a foundation do's or don'ts, eyeshadow do's or don'ts, whatever it is, let me know down below. Leave all your questions. I appreciate your time. Thank you for being here with me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.